Governor Haley, congratulations on
Thank
your nomination. James Madison wrote that the executive branch is the branch of government most prone to war. Therefore, the Constitution, with studied care, vested that power in the legislature. In the days of our founding fathers, it was very important who had that power, distributed among the U.S. government. I don't think they ever conceived of an international body compelling the U.S. to go to war. I still think it's an incredibly important debate, and we've lost a little bit of this. We let presidents go to war willy-nilly without much oversight at all. We've still not voted on the current war in the Middle East. So my question to you is, will you vote for any UN resolution that commits U.S. soldiers to war or to a battle zone that has not been authorized by Congress?
Well, and thank you, Senator, for that question, because I think it's an important one. First of all, I think that as we go forward with all the threats that we have in the world, understand that you're talking to a military wife and a military sister, where both of them have been in combat. And I think that we have to really be careful if we're going to decide to go to war. But I also think that if we decide to go to war, it is important that we have the President-elect, the National Security Council, Congress, everyone moving in the same direction in order to do that. It will show our strength in the world when we do that. It will also give confidence to those military families that everyone is in agreement that we're doing the right thing. And so I think it's in the best interest of us, regardless of partisanship or anything else, to make sure that we all stand in agreement if we decide to show military influence.
I agree with the sentiment. I'm not sure if we got to the specifics of would you vote for a resolution to send our soldiers, a UN resolution, to a war that hadn't been authorized by the U.S.?
And I think that probably the best answer I can give you is that as a member of the National Security Council, I would encourage them to make sure that they had these conversations with Congress and that they have Congress's buy-in before we interfere in
I would go one step farther in the sense that many say, well, we should have the advice of Congress and we ought to occasionally go down there and pat them on the back and talk to them. No, the rules are pretty specific. We don't go to war really unless Congress votes on war. And the reason I bring this up is we may well be in a situation, we're in war right now, primarily with ISIS in Syria and Iraq. That war has not been authorized. We've had no vote here on whether or not we should be involved in that war. Some try to stretch a resolution that said we could go after those who attacked us on 9/11. ISIS did not attack us on 9/11. They're not related in any way to anybody who attacked us on 9/11.
Right.
So we have had no vote, and one generation shouldn't bind another generation to war. But that well could come before you. Right now we're at war. You could say, well, we're already at war. We can send people there in the UN banner. Well, you shouldn't. I mean, we should say to you, you should not vote for that. You should come back to us and say, I'll vote for it gladly after Congress does their job and authorizes. But no U.S. soldier should ever fight under any international banner without a vote here by Congress. And I can't state that strong enough because that is a check. That is a check and a balance to try to prevent unnecessary war. There's a bill floating around to try to withhold UN dues until the vote on the UN on Israel settlements is reversed. Without asking you specifically on that, what do you think of the concept of withholding UN dues based on UN behavior?
Well, Senator, I don't believe in the slash and burn approach. As a governor, you could never do that. That's not effective. I know many legislators will put bills out of frustration, and I absolutely understand the frustration over Resolution 2334, but I think it's important that we are strategic in the way that we hold dues. So yes, I do see a place where you can hold dues. I do think it needs to be strategic in nature. I would want to use Congress as my heavy and leverage in terms of doing that so that I could get members of the council to do the things that we needed to do. But yes, I do think there are times where you can withhold dues. I don't think you should slash and cut across the board because I don't think that will accomplish the goal.
And finally, the general concept of U.S. sovereignty is important to many of us. You've heard from some of the other members about, whether a UN resolution instructs us legally. And I would say only if approved by Congress, that really there is no supersedence of UN resolutions over U.S. law. And I think that's important because we can go to war through the UN, but we can do a lot of things through the UN that really need to be approved by Congress. Congress, not as a consultation, not as, hey, here's what we're doing, guys. No, it's coming to us and asking permission because we are directly responsible to the people as well. And it is a check and balance. And I hope as you become the UN ambassador, and I will support you, but as you become the UN ambassador, I hope you will consider that and that some of these questions aren't, simple questions, but they're incredibly profound questions. And whether or not when we go to war and when we don't go to war, as you know, you have family members that will fight in these wars. War's the last resort, so we don't make it easy. None of the founding fathers didn't want to make it easy to go to war. They wanted to make it difficult. And then we go through consensus. But we don't go through consensus if the UN takes us to war. And I have a great deal of sympathy. There's a young man who is currently suing the U.S. military, saying it's an unlawful order for him to take an order from the United Nations because it's a war that's not, or a war that's not been authorized here. And I have some sympathy for that. So I hope you'll continue to ponder that and how important it is that we maintain the checks and balances of how we go to war.
And I strongly believe of the importance of, should I be confirmed, the UN always working with Congress and Congress always having that sort of element to be able to make those decisions as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you for those sentiments. Senator